class review, showcase review, fuck. So if you haven't heard about it yet, TMS and JMS have had their showcase events for their upcoming Assemble patch. And in the showcases, they included the Sengoku revamp, as you can now see on screen. From these showcases, we can confirm that we do get to keep the fan design of the class. Good job, TMS fellas. But they did change it so that this class will now have a proper secondary, which is the new Talisman. I'm a bit late to this, but obviously, being a channel dedicated to making content about this class, for the most part at least, yesterday I took a thorough look at the new footage to get a better understanding of what's to come, as well as give my thoughts on it. I'll do my best here to show you exactly what I found out during my brief inspections, so buckle up. So the showcase first starts off with a bit of mobbing with 3 of the new summons out, each summon being called Oni, Tengu, and Orochi. However, right off the bat, we can see the new equivalent of Spirit Circle, this giant skill. If you haven't caught it, we can see the player throw a talisman onto a target, and upon hitting, this giant skill appears, making this a much more reliable version of Spirit Circle. Moving on, we can see the player use what seems to be the equivalent of Shikigami Haunting. And yes, the skill deals 2 lines of damage. This change has been an instant disappointment to many players, like me, because literally the moment people saw this, complaints started going on how the skill visually looks, both in the GMS Kanna Discord and in the TMS forums. Next up, in the same mobbing clip, we can see Tengu following the player, seemingly attacking whichever target the player is hitting at the same time. At the end of the clip, we can see Orochi appear during one of her attacks, and there's some sort of a debuff icon above the enemies being hit, as well as Oni kinda doing her own thing from place to place. Just to quickly clarify before moving on, this is something I should have said earlier in the vid, but I'm doing this a bit messy. Oni is going to be our full uptime summon, while Tengu at most would be half uptime, and Orochi purely for bursting bosses. So now that we know that, I want to bring your attention over to the player itself. It's really hard to catch here, so I'll play it slowly and loop it for you. If you look at what the player does behind the damage lines, you can see it raising a red talisman, immediately followed up by a big Oni attack. Now this is not exclusive to Oni, because later in the video you're gonna see that every other summon has its own thing. Lastly, we can see Haku the Familiar in his fox form, meaning maybe there's no human buffed version, there's no anything like that, it's just always gonna be in fox mode. Until burst that is, but that is for later. In this bossing clip, right off the bat, we see 2 new flashy skills happening on screen. One being the new bind/domain hybrid, which kinda looks like Arcbind honestly. And 2, this large area skill that seems to grant a buff to the player, given the new spinning visuals surrounding Kanna in this clip. Keeping your attention on Kanna again, you may have noticed the use of different color talismans. First red, followed up by purple, then followed up by what I believe is the new mana balance, which replenishes some mana to the player, which is then followed up by a green talisman. And then another red talisman? What the fuck? To further prove that the use of each talisman activates a special attack for the corresponding summon, you can see for yourselves in this side-by-side look. The player uses a red talisman, followed by a big Oni spinny attack. The player then uses a purple talisman, which then displays this Tengu icon above Tengu herself and the player, as well as Tengu actually charging up a big attack. We can also see similar behavior with Orochi. Green talisman out, Orochi big attack out. And lastly, finishing off with another red talisman use, making this overall 2 uses of the red talisman during the same burst. You know which class plays similarly to this? This was actually me after I found this out. Like holy sh. The footage is then followed up by another burst clip, but this one shows the new 2-minute burst skill by Haku the Familiar. Essentially, this is our current 6 job origin skill converted into our 2-minute V skill. This seems to behave differently to our origin skill in the sense that it no longer attacks per any mana usage. Instead, it procs on its own during its entire duration. This also has a reworked finisher animation, as you're about to see right now. Rest in peace, Bomba Blast. Quickly speculating, during this new Haku skills duration, the player may be iframed for its entire duration. At least this is what I gather from this brief glancing of this skill. It just seems to me like the spider legs pattern just don't seem to hit the Kanna. Shortly after that, they're showing the new Ascent and the Origin skill, but honestly I don't really care. Okay, conclusion speedrun. It seems that Kanna lost the following skills as you can see on screen, as well as on the technical side of things, Tengu weaving is completely gone, which is something that completely changes the playstyle of the class. To me, simply put, this basically makes Kanna, well, not Kanna. The one thing I wish would stay after the revamp is the fact that we can animation cancel or Tengu weave, and yet it's just completely gone. So in my honest opinion, I think Kanna's identity just died. And onto the visual aesthetics of the class. Now, while I care more for the gameplay and technical side of things, many players have expressed the following. The whole aesthetic became this modernly generic, sometimes bland, and really out of place color schemes, as opposed to the ink paintings like aesthetics that it currently has, which also in my opinion made it very unique. I was told, trust in TMS or in Terry, and the reasoning was Lynn's current state. However, as I mentioned earlier, my only concern was how the gameplay turns out to be, not how the class performs. So unfortunately, I am beyond disappointed. You know, despite its numerous flaws I was constantly complaining about through these videos and different platforms, Nexon ended up fixing many of the topics I mentioned previously, such as the mana issues, the not being able to teleport into a corner issue, some skills such as Doppelganger and Kishin not being really reliable in actual bossing, and more. Ultimately, putting Kanna in its best state yet, and for that, I am thankful. To finish up, I say this while doing the 07 IRL, which is saluting if you don't know that. 07 to Kanna's identity, 07 to Kanna's gameplay, 07 to the class I picked back in 2018, and honestly, 07 to the class that ultimately defined the past 8 years of my Maple story, as well as my YouTube channel and its audience. Goodbye, Kanna.
It is time, Haku, come.
Mr. Skeleton, was I a good boy?
No, you were a disgusting rat.
Oh, man.
However,